Hello everyone, welcome to Bitcoin Not Crypto. My name is Forrest Stevens, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the FOMO plane which is landing on MicroStrategy. WallStreetBets, the subreddit, is absolutely blowing up with MSTR. MSTR Irresponsibly Long group on Twitter is starting to get a lot of followers very rapidly, although that can increase even more. I'm not sure we're in the frothiest part of the FOMO river, but we are definitely heading downstream, or upstream maybe. Before I do talk about all of this, I want to tell you about Bitcoin Well, which is where I buy all of my Bitcoin. The reason I buy it there is it has the lowest spreads. They're available in Canada and the US. They have no additional fees on top of the 1.2% spread. They have non-KYC options, and they never hold your Bitcoin for you. They're incredibly easy to use, but they actually send your Bitcoin directly to your wallet address. So you don't open yourself up to exchange risk, basically. The other reason I like them is because they have the Bitcoin Wishing Well, which they actually give you some rewards and you get some free sats. And if you sign up with my link in the description, you'll get some bonus rewards. And I have a Discord as well, so if you need help with Bitcoin Well, you can hop on the Discord. I can walk you through it. There's also a tutorial, and you can actually book a free 15-minute call with me if there's some details that you need. The FOMO river, like I mentioned, is starting to get frothy. It's starting to get dangerous, and there's this kind of bell curve meme. I think it's called the midwit meme, where there's kind of the 80 IQ on the left, the 150 IQ on the right, and everyone else in the middle. And the low IQ is saying, buy MicroStrategy, number go up. And the one on the right, the high IQ, is saying the same thing. And the people in the middle are saying, this is extremely volatile. It's trading at too high of a premium. It looks a little bit scary. It looks like it's already gone way up. This is a bubble. It's going to pop and it's going to go back down. It needs to go back down. And yes, nothing goes up in a straight line, but I am here to argue basically that this inflating bubble, which bubble's maybe not the right way to put it, but the increase in the share price of MicroStrategy is, it is started, but it is not finished, and it is not close to being finished because there are so many catalysts on the horizon for Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and the combination of the two just leads that share price to go up. I do want to talk about some of the risks, although I do plan to make a video about MicroStrategy and like basically the bear case for MicroStrategy, what you should be aware of as far as risks. So I'm not going to go too deep into those on this video, but stay tuned for that video coming soon. Let's talk about the FOMO and what this means. So our WallStreetBets, if you go on there right now, the top posts are all about MicroStrategy. This is a group with, I believe, 17 million people. Not all of them are active, of course, but the posts on there do have a ton of activity. And looking through the comments, I am just amazed at how undereducated a lot of these investors are on MicroStrategy. There is a lot of the MNAV premium talk. There's a lot of people talking about, well, this is just crazy. All they do is borrow Bitcoin. It's just a leveraged ETF basically of Bitcoin. And there's a lot of non-understanding of what MicroStrategy is. To be fair, there are some people on there that do understand. There are some people on there trying to educate others on the finer points and the more important points about MicroStrategy. But the reason I bring this up is because a lot of these people will be seeing the price appreciation and hopping in, and I think that's what's happening a lot right now, and that's driving the price up. I mean, MicroStrategy is up 15% in the day today, and it's still early day. So the price is rapidly increasing, and I think a lot of that is people jumping on the roller coaster. Retail getting in, institutions getting in, a lot of activity getting in, because basically the other thing that happened today is that MicroStrategy stock is the most traded. It's even higher traded than NVIDIA currently in today. So there's a lot of activity. And the reason I bring this up is because there will be people who jump in on the FOMO trade. There'll be momentum traders. And I just want to reiterate that word trader. The thing about traders and the thing about some people from this era that we're going into, which is the FOMO stage, they will have very low conviction, a lot of them. So I'm talking in very general terms, and I do want to say that we look at Wall Street's bet history, and we do see that there are people who deep dove on the hot stocks of Wall Street bets in the past, on GME, AMC, and all the others. There were people that did deeper research and did find more conviction in that trade. But the setup of MicroStrategy is so much better than any of those, of course. A lot of people, and you'll see that in the price of, say, GME as an example, it went up to, I think, 350 or even 550. I can't remember the exact number, but it had this huge spike, and there was all this malarkey with Robinhood cutting off buying, only allowing selling, and that was at the end of the week. So, you know, it lost a lot of momentum and steam. But there was a huge FOMO trade, there was a huge momentum trade, and with that, the price rocketed up and then went down. So there's this thing, you know, when we talk about bubbles, I've mentioned bubbles, stock trading bubbles before, and people think about, okay, well, a bubble happens, it pops, and the stock or equity or whatever goes rapidly down and never recovers. But that's really not the way certain things work. Bitcoin has had multiple bubbles, and it has gone rapidly up with the momentum, with the FOMO, with the retail, with everybody hopping on. And then because of their low conviction, they start selling, and price is dictated by basically buyers and sellers currently in the market. So if there's a lot of buy pressure, that's going to jack the price up really quickly until it reaches high enough levels where people are willing to sell into the market. And the reverse happens. So if there's a lot of people looking to exit a position, they have to lower their price until there's a level where somebody's willing to buy it. So price fluctuations in these kind of scenarios can happen really quickly. They can really rapidly change. Just to finish off that explanation of the bubble, the price can go way up beyond basically what it's worth, although that's of course subjective, and then rapidly come down to sort of more of a fair value, or more of a base level, or more of sort of a support level if you're into TA, and it kind of allows a more stable kind of growth or fluctuation from there. But there's, within markets, there's these bubbles that happen, but then they go down and then they start rising again. So a bubble is not a be-all end-all where a bubble forms in a stock or something and it will never go back there. We even look at MicroStrategy, right? MicroStrategy's been in a bubble before. It was a .com darling, and it's now gone way past its .com level, but for 20 plus years, nobody thought it would ever reach that high again. So is it in a bubble again? I would say no, because fundamentally the business has changed so drastically, and it now offers this product, right? We have to understand that MicroStrategy does not trade like a leveraged ETF because they are selling something of incredible value. Just as Apple is able to sell an iPhone, just as Microsoft is able to sell computers or software, MicroStrategy is able to sell a convertible bond into the convertible bond market, and they have an incredible amount of demand. They have a ton of buyers that absolutely want the product that they are selling, and the product they are selling is a convertible bond. Then they can take that and they can buy what they want. I'm talking about MicroStrategy now. They can buy Bitcoin, which is what they want. So it's this reflexive flywheel. They do have a product that allows them to trade at a higher premium to their net asset value. and this is why they're worth a lot more than that. So I do expect there to be an incredible run-up with this FOMO momentum trade, and I do expect there to be a pullback. Now, timing any of this, of course, is going to be extremely hard. We are in price discovery. We cannot look back at historical support and resistance lines, which are basically just volume of buyers and sellers and a market there that will stabilize a price for a moment in time until those buyers and sellers are exhausted, and then it needs to move to a different level. We don't know, right? We also have this underlying asset that has a lot of catalysts. The catalysts of MicroStrategy have the catalysts of Bitcoin as well on top of that. So there's a lot going for it, and there's a lot of reason why this price that it's currently at, it might actually be worth. So although it looks and appears like a bubble, maybe it's just getting to its actual fair value. So there's really, the bubble might happen later, it might happen soon, it might deflate from here, it might deflate later, and with that, I just offer some caution. And I don't think this caution is necessarily warranted, because I think that a lot of people looking at this right now will see that. They'll say, wow, this chart is crazy. It's an absolute wall of buy pressure and price appreciation. And that looks like a top to me, and I'm not willing to jump in that train. I'm, too scared, too chicken. And basically it's frightening. And it is a frightening chart. It's an incredibly frightening chart. But once you start to understand some of the fundamentals of what's going on behind the scenes with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, you start to think, well, maybe this is still undervalued somehow. Maybe the NAV should be at a higher premium. It's really an incredible spot we're at. And of course, with hindsight, you're like, oh, I wish I got in some crazy leaps or good options or even shares prior to this incredible run up. But maybe we're at this spot again where, looking back from here and looking back at here, you'll think the same thing. So it's really hard to know. I'm just glad I got in my position when I did. And I would just, again, have a word of caution to anybody entering this position. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I have no credentials at all. I'm just talking about my own opinion. But if I were in this situation now where I didn't have any MicroStrategy and I was looking at it as a way to get more exposure, more price appreciation than just underlying Bitcoin, I would be cautious if I was in that situation. And with that caution, I would do, basically I would allocate a position size that I would be okay with writing down. If the FOMO bubble has already happened, if it deflates from here, MicroStrategy is not going to zero. They're not going to even anywhere close to zero. They are just an incredible company, like I said, and they have this underlying Bitcoin. So even if they go back to the value of their Bitcoin underneath, I mean, that would be an incredible drawdown from where it is now. But if you had the conviction, if you built the conviction by understanding and watching all my previous videos on MicroStrategy, and looked into MicroStrategy True North and what Punter Jeff and Ryquant are doing, and Ben Workman and all these others, you would begin to build some conviction in MicroStrategy, I believe, and therefore you'll be able to handle the drawdowns. And let's just be clear, all those guys I've mentioned have been in this trade a lot longer than I have, and they've been in the red for a lot of that trade, and now they are just in the black by a crazy percentage. And you didn't really, if you're just looking at this now, if you're just getting into this now, and you're just looking at where they are, you'll kind of just think, okay, well, they got lucky or what have you. But I'm sure it didn't feel good to be down the amount that they've been in the past with their call options, with their highly leveraged, risky call options. in a volatile stock like MicroStrategy. So the other thing that should be noted is that if this FOMO trade continues, if this momentum continues, it actually separates and creates more distance between the multiple of the net asset value, so the underlying Bitcoin compared to the share price. And what this allows for is MicroStrategy has announced a $21 billion at the market offering, which allows them over the next 3 years to issue 21 billion of fresh new shares. They've already done 4.6 billion, I believe, since that announcement. So, the more the share price becomes decoupled from Bitcoin and increases, the more effective the at-the-market share offerings are at giving them cash, which then they buy Bitcoin with. So it becomes a more effective strategy the higher this share price goes. And so there ends up being more value in one of the products or one of the strategies that they have, which is part of the underlying business and part of the underlying reason you would want to buy MicroStrategy. So they can basically increase the Bitcoin per yield, or Bitcoin yield per share more the higher the price of their shares go. So that's just something to consider as well. And this FOMO trade, even if it starts to come down, even if it starts to get nothing goes up in a straight line, right? But there will be this time, and I'm sure Michael Saylor and his team will just be smashing these at-the-market offerings and issuing new shares and selling them into this frenzy of buying activity. And they will use that capital to buy Bitcoin, which is exactly what we want if we believe in a MicroStrategy. If we're just doing this for a trade, if we just want the price appreciation, we want to get out, we don't really care what they do, we're just hopping on a hot stock, then none of this matters. But I would highly consider researching this company a lot more because it's incredibly interesting. If you don't research it now, you'll be reading about it in the history books. So the other thing that I want to say about this FOMO trade is that, a lot of people will trade it. Some people will make money. Some people will lose money based on their ability to trade and the conviction they have to hold through downturns and to get out at highs and all these different things, right? But there will be some people that dive deeper. Like I said, WallStreetBets has some people in there that are good at research. They're retail, they're amateurs, but they will do deep dives. And as they do that, they need to learn about all of the different things that I talked about with MicroStrategy's Bitcoin strategy, and they also need to learn about Bitcoin. So I think that in the end, this will be a net positive on the Bitcoin network. And if you believe in MicroStrategy, you should believe in Bitcoin. And for me, that's the only reason that I'm really into MicroStrategy, is because of their Bitcoin strategy. And so I think that this is going to be a net positive on Bitcoin as a whole. Yes, some people will be burned, but those people won't have done the research to begin with, and they probably already have preconceived notions on what Bitcoin is. And so they're not open-minded enough to do the research deeper. But I do think that this price run-up will be historic. I think that the internet content, the online content that will be created because of this will draw in new people to research and understand Bitcoin. It will orange pill basically a lot of people. And the mainstream media will have to talk about this. They already are to some degree, but they will have to consider it more and more. As MicroStrategy reaches insane share price and market cap, as they get included in the QQQ and the S&P, as they adopt fair value accounting, FASB rules, and their earning per share goes absolutely bonkers because they can now value their Bitcoin as at the price appreciation that they've had. These will all be news stories, and all of these news stories will introduce people to what Bitcoin is in some respect, and then it's up to those individuals to dive deeper and understand that this is a monetary paradigm shift, and that Bitcoin is really the fascinating story underneath the fascinating story that is MicroStrategy. So that's it for the video, basically. If you have any questions about this FOMO trade, you can comment them down below. I expect that I will definitely touch on this topic again and probably explain it in different words, so it might make more sense to you in the video that I plan to do on the bear case for MicroStrategy. And that's not to create any sort of FUD about MicroStrategy. It's just to outline the different reasons that MicroStrategy might go down, and it's something to be aware of. And I will also talk about why those points aren't necessarily that important, and that in fact they're pretty unlikely. So if you're interested in Bitcoin and you want to hold it self-custody, check out Bitcoin Well. I'm also producing a film about Bitcoin and a series about Bitcoin, and I'm crowdfunding for that. So if you want to create some new content with me to help orange pill the world, you can actually help fund this. You can do a Lightning transaction for the first time because I'm crowdfunding this through the website Geyser, which is a Bitcoin-only crowdfunding website. So check out the link for that if you're interested at all. And thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.